Hello and welcome. It's time for us again to look at very big issues making the rounds on the global scene and especially Africa's biggest black nation, Nigeria. My name is Anthony Momodi. Welcome you to today's edition of the program, The Desk. On today's edition, we'll be looking at very interesting talking point as we look at the federal government says it has traced at least 83 billion naira in cryptocurrency and fiat money challenge was the recent nationwide protest. And we'll be looking at the consequences of this and what this means. Big questions, how come it was easy for the federal government to track such monies but cannot track monies that has to do with terrorism financing in the country? So we'll be looking at that, and we've got a very fantastic guest that will be helping us look at this very interesting talking point. As the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, did make some presentation as regards how these monies were earmarked to help the national protest. We'll also be looking at the Minister of Solid Minerals Development in the person of Dele Alake, who alleged that the sponsors of the hashtag End Bad Governance protests were gunning to change governance in the country. He equally alleged that they were plotting to thwart the nation's democracy. Some say he is saying too much. We'll be looking at how true his comments are and if his claims are truly worth the while, especially if you cast your mind back to the Occupy Nigeria protest, which sounded more like wanting to take over the country. We'll be looking at other issues, still talking about the hashtag End Bad Governance. The Anglican bishop did condemn the handling of the protest by the Nigerian government, saying the killings were not warranted. We'll be looking at the issue that they also raised, that there's need to train the security forces in the country. We'll also be looking at other issues that has to do with national interest. Just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, we had the Council of State pass a vote of confidence on President Bola Tinubu's first meeting being held since he resumed office, and we know that one missing point was there. Ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo wasn't at the meeting, either physically or via virtually, and so that's a big question mark on why he wasn't present. Does it mean he does not support the APC ruling government is one of the talking points. And one man had comment as regards that meeting. Shawari, he did describe the meeting as a meeting of failures. Do you agree with him? Is a big talking point. All right, all this is what we're going to look at on today's very interesting edition of the program, The Desk. And very interestingly, we've got three persons outside the studio or watching from close range, Austin Peacemaker and his team, waiting to see how far the discourse will go as we look at, let's welcome Arome Agenyi, who is the Executive Director of Center for Learning and Development, the right man to get the job done. Arome, you're looking nice, and brown sugar.
Thank you very much, Mamodu. Thank you very much.
All right,
good to be with you on this program.
All right, let's begin our discourse from the federal government saying they've been able to trace 83 billion naira in cryptocurrency. Also be able to trace another $50 million via cryptocurrency, another $38 million, 4 wallets of cryptocurrency monies channeled for the hashtag hunger protest. Are you impressed with how quick Nuhu Ribadu was able to get this job done? But he wasn't able to get the Binance executives, stay put in Nigeria. One even escaped their custody.
Well, when it's about government, we start looking at is that the actions of government and those in government. Sometimes, how is this action taken? Is it taken from the point of advantage, or is taken from the point of from the citizen perspective? By the citizen perspective, I'm saying, is it taken in response to what the citizens are asking for? And from the point of advantage, this will have to go very fast. This has to go very fast because to some point you understand that the government is actually very agitative in terms of anything that has to do with the protest. So the government will do everything to stop a further outbreak of the protest by clamping down on resources that is coming from whoever is sponsoring the protest or whoever is behind who is supporting the protest. So for me, I think the government is coming from that point of advantage. The fact that if we don't track this money down, then there is an opportunity for this thing to actually come up, for the protest to come up some other time again. So we need to quickly clamp it down by looking at the resources, tracing the resources, and then stalling the resources so that these people don't have resources to further push the agitation that they are pushing for.
They cannot apply the same speed and accuracy in stopping terrorism financing. Does that go to say that what Sani Abacha did say, that when an action such as the banditry take place within 48, 72 hours, it means the government interest in it?
Yeah, definitely, there is government interest in it. It's about politics. It's about advantage. It's about not biting the finger that feeds you, because we have heard there have been a lot of allegations. We've seen videos of how some persons from the forest are saying that some persons in government are the one funding terrorism. And we have also seen that these persons that have been accused of funding terrorism are members of this government. So if the government is tracking down people that are funding terrorism, it therefore means that the government is also delegitimizing their own administration. And any government, no government around the world would want to delegitimize his or her own administration. So in order to stay in power, in order to keep that sense of legitimacy before the people, I will do everything to keep my government. So I will not want to go after the people that are doing such thing that is delegitimizing my government. Rather, I will do everything to legitimize my government.
All right, let's look at the fact that also 4 billion naira was also traced to sponsors, political collaborators from Kaduna, Katsina, and Kano, and the Federal Capital Territory. What does this tell us as regards, probably that was why we saw a lot of violence in the northern region?
Well, the violence in the northern region, there are a lot of intricacies to the violence in the northern region. Now, we should not disregard the fact that the northern region over the last decade has been boiling in terms of insurgency, in terms of the banditry, the criminality that is going on in the northern region. So that has been there. Also, we need to also begin to interrogate the political economy of conflict within the northern region. There are a lot of factors that contribute to what happened in the northern region. Now, we need to also bring it down to the fact that hunger issues also contributed to it. So it's not just the protest, but there are a lot of intricacies. There is a huge connecting factors that triggered the violence in the northern region. If you see it, there are, for example, the case of Maiduguri, where there was an explosion in Maiduguri. You would not outrightly say that it's the people that are protesting, that are coming out to agitate, that the government, that they are hungry, that are the one putting the IED in that particular market. So there is a lot of intricacies to that. While there is a dimension of the political motivation there's a political motivation to that, there is also the underlying issues that were there before now that also played in that particular violence within the northern region.
All right, hopefully we will be joined via Zoom by Adakole Ijogi, who is one of the co-conveners of the hashtag End Hunger Protest in the country. We hope he will be joining us via Zoom soon. And let's go for a very quick break. When we return from the break, we continue our discourse as we look at other issues making the round. Stay with us. right, welcome back from the break. We're still talking matters relating to Nigeria and still talking about the protest front. I've got Arome in the building helping us to look at these very salient issues. Let's move on to the next talking point, which has to do with the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, who has claimed that the protest was all about trying to overthrow the government, and it was calculated to, thwart Nigeria's democracy. Do you think he's talking from a place of sincerity, or he's just being a sycophant? The government seemed to put away the fact that Nigerians they are hungry. They're not looking at the hungry part, the sufferings of Nigeria. Does that tell us how away they are from the reality of what Nigerians are going through?
Mamadou, you would agree with me that the minister is crying foul. And one thing that I will also say to the minister, frankly, is that he should face the business of managing the ministry that has been committed to him. There is a lot of illegal mining happening in the forests across Nigeria. That should be his first concern and not the protest. That's the first thing that I would tell the minister. Again, we also know that this particular minister is one of the persons that was strongly behind the Occupy Nigeria protest in 2015. So he also discrediting this protest is also saying he's crying foul. Now, going back to saying that whether he's sincere or not insincere, I would say that he's very, very insincere. His cry is very, very insincere. Now, why do I say that his cry is very insincere? Now, who overthrew a government? An unarmed citizen cannot overthrow a government. Overthrowing a government can only happen in a military era, in a military setting. It's only the military that can overthrow a government.
Okay.
What the people are saying simply is, we are hungry, and the government needs to come up with policy direction. The government needs to come up with, progressive policy that speaks to addressing the harsh economic reality of Nigerians. It's as simple as that. So it's not about overthrowing a government. It's about It's about addressing salient issues within the system that is not working.
All right, well said. All right, I want to welcome Adakole Ijogi joining us via Zoom. Good evening, Adakole. Nice to have you join us.
Hello, yeah, thank you for having me. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got Arome Ijogi here, who is the Executive Director of Center for Learning and Development, as my live guest here. All right, let's get your take as regards what we're talking about. The federal government has said they discovered that 83 billion naira via cryptocurrency, $50 million and $38 million via cryptocurrency in 4 wallets were, channeled to the hashtag End Bad Governance, which you're one of those coordinators. Is this true?
Well, while I appreciate the National Security Advisor who briefed the National Council of States on their assessments of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest that ended on the 10th of August, I think those kind of statements are too cryptic. They are too cryptic. The reason I say they are cryptic, they're neither here nor there. I mean, if you have intercepted monies geared towards us funding the protest, then you should give us names. Give us the account names and the name of the
All right, okay. Are you there?
The name of the names of the individuals behind them. Yes, I'm here. You can hear me?
Go ahead.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was saying that the National Security Advisor statements.
All right, that's a network glitch there, giving us some issues. I wanted to hear from Adakole precisely what he thinks about the monies that traced to the hashtag End Bad Governance protest, which was supposed to last for 10 days, but didn't go the whole hog. But let's still talking about the issues around the national protest. We've got the Church of Nigeria, the Anglican archbishops who had a meeting recently condemning the way the protest was handled by security agencies and called for the government to do better, and also called for retraining of security forces. How do you think the Nigerian police handled the situation in comparison to what we saw in the UK, where they had almost 30 different locations of protest?
This has become a cliche in Nigeria, in our national life, training and retraining our security agencies and all of that. It's become a cliche in our national life. And it's something that I think we need to look at it critically. Now, talking about the handling of protests by security agencies, I would want to give credit to some few states, like, for example, Kano. I expected that the protests in Kano or the situation in Kano was going to escalate beyond what it was in Kano, considering the level of destructions and how some persons were unruly in Kano. I also have to talk about Kaduna as well. I saw in a video where the protester took one of the armored tank and all of that. If we go back to 2015, it would have been worse than what we saw in those what would have happened would have been worse than what we saw in 2015. But having said that, we also saw in places where police and some of the security agencies were handling some of the protesters with some very high-handedness. Now, bringing all of this home, we still have to go back to, addressing the issue, something that is very critical, and I talked about it, national value. What our national value? What do we have as value as citizen, as public servant? Now, if we are guided by a national value that have respect for human life, we will be very careful how we treat human beings. So number one, it is not about training. It's about reorientating the Nigerian citizen. It's about reorientating our security service, that these people that are protesting are, first of all, human beings before they are carrying out this particular act of protest or civil disobedience. So they should be treated as human. Now, having said that, now, in terms of retraining them, now, when you retrain them and you don't, it's something to train somebody. It's another thing to then sit down and say, this training that you have we reevaluated this training that we have given to this particular security agencies over the period that we have been training them? If you have reevaluated it, if we have gone back to do an assessment to see how effective has this training been, what are the missing links? What did we train them on? What didn't we train them on? Then it is easy for us to start thinking, what are the new areas that we need to focus in terms of retraining the security agencies for them to discharge their duty in order not to, to handle citizens in terms of civil-military relationship? We need to also begin to build a conversation around that. How do you handle people that are not carrying arms in terms of during protests? We need to begin to build conversations as that, holding town hall, holding dialogue, and series of different conversations to see that our security agencies treat human beings like they are human.
Someone watching from Kogi State just sent a message. She says, do you think the federal government is scapegoating Nigerians by the arrest? That's someone from Kogi State just sending a message now. She says, do you think the federal government is scapegoating by the arrest so far?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know that this is true. That you pick somebody that is of interest.
Right?
Yeah, I think she's right. You pick somebody that is of interest. If in warfare, if you are not somebody that has the potentials of shifting my game, I will not do anything. So I will just overlook and concentrate on someone that has the potential on inflicting some more pain on my own side. So I think she's right.
All right. I hope Atakule will join us soon, and so that we'll continue our discourse. My producer says let's go for a quick break. We'll have some audio to restore. Let's go for a quick break. When we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us. That's a very interesting talking point making the rounds on this edition. And we're moving on from what the Minister of Solid Minerals is saying, and also what the Church of Nigeria, the Anglican Archbishop, are saying there's need to retrain our security forces also. All right, moving on to the next talking point, which happens to be concerning the Council of State meeting that Bola Tinubu on Tuesday received the vote of confidence from members of the Council of State, comprising former presidents, past heads of state, as well as former chief justices of the Federation. Tuesday's Council of State meeting is the first presided over by Tinubu since he assumed office. The council members condemned the recent hashtag and bad governance protest, which Dele Alake, the Minister of Solid Minerals, described as having a sinister motives. Let's look at the fact that we had former President Goodluck Jonathan, we had Muhammadu Buhari, and Yakubu Gowon in attendance, and the justices, but Olusegun Obasanjo was missing. He didn't join via Zoom or virtually or physically. What does that say as regards the confidence or the support President Ahmed Tinubu has from Obasanjo, who many consider as one of the most tactical leaders in Africa?
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is an elder statesman, and sometimes you don't see elders everywhere. You need.
You say Gowon is not an elder statesman?
Well, Gowon is an elder statesman, but sometimes you don't see elders everywhere. You need to also conceal the identity, the how you relate with the general public, to also to bring in that sense of value sometimes. So for me, I think it's not, in as much as former President Olusegun Obasanjo might not be in support of this government, I feel it's not something. He must have communicated his stand on this government to the Council of State. So for me, I think it's not something that is political. But however, having said that, one of the things that I want the citizens, Nigerians, to look at now is how do we leverage on the moral, how do we leverage on the Council of Elder as a moral entity to also appeal to the government in terms of the policy direction of government, in terms of abuse of human rights, in terms of the excessiveness and the recklessness of government. I think that's also something that we need to also begin doing. How do we leverage on their moral strength?
Would you say they have moral strength if they pass the vote of confidence on Mr. President with what is going on, and the fact that one of the key men, elder statesman, also went missing in action? That should be a very strong statement. Do you think you would really pass? What would be a pass of vote of confidence on these persons?
Well, Mahmoud, let me draw your attention to something very, very important. You know, there's the point these elder statesmen have come to. They control they have some sense of influence within the society. And where we are at this point in Nigeria, we don't want an exacerbation of we don't want the issues to push beyond the border where it is right now. So for the councils of elders,
is it passing the vote of confidence that is going to make things better? It's not going to stop
the diplomacy
in
war. There's what we call diplomacy in war. So you are outrightly not saying this government is bad. You are outrightly not saying this government is good. But you are technically, in order to keep peace, in order to maintain.
So why didn't they come out to say, okay, we score the president X values, and we're saying do this, rather than say we pass vote of confidence?
Yeah, but we have heard some of them, spoken in some senses, in some area, that what the government is doing is not doing right now. The government needs to sit up in some sense. So what we are saying in a way is that we don't want to heighten the heighten the polity. We need to keep it where it is, to look for a creative way of resolving the problem that we have on ground, because take it or leave it, we have a national security issues in this country, and we need to deal with it.
All right, let's look at talking about there's a news that broke a few minutes before we came on air that had to do with the subversion bill, which Tajuddin Abbas, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, was pushing, where any Nigerian that failed to recite the national anthem was going to be get a 10-year imprisonment or 5 million naira fine. First of all, the alacrity and how quick that national anthem bill was passed was very suspicious, and it was obvious it was for the old guard of people who found it more inspiring. But for our own generation, we were used to the now old national anthem, which, and you could see the Super Eagles, even when they were playing the national anthem, when they played, the 2 matches they played, they couldn't even recite the national anthem. There was nothing to inspire them because they were used to the national anthem. Do you think that, first of all, was very unfair? Just changing the national anthem, not minding the fact that majority of the population, which tells us that 75% are youth, are used to this other national anthem, which inspired them. As to this one, and now they're bringing this draconian law to bill to say, okay, if you can recite or if you refuse to recite, you get 10 years imprisonment. Are we getting to a dictatorial kind of government? We saw what happened to Ningi, Senator Ningi Ali Nduna recently.
Now, we are going back to what I termed as authoritarian democracy. It's a democratic system, but authoritarian. Now, having said that, authoritarian democracy. Having said that, I want to draw our attention. To one very critical thing.
Okay.
Going back to what I said initially, that when it is of advantage to the people in government, they push it so quick.
Okay. All right, just hold on to your comment. We've got Adakole Ijogi joining us via Zoom. Adakole, thank you for rejoining us. Adakole, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Please
All
go
right,
ahead.
I was thinking probably the network companies are trying to play fast one on us and not letting you speak, being part of those who were behind the end bad governance protest. All right, so let's get your take. We're looking at the recent subversion bill, which the House of Representatives Speaker Tajuddin Abbas finally withdrew today due to pressure. How do you make sense of this, the way the government is going?
Well, I think to answer you honestly, some of us are very, very, very disappointed in the way this administration has managed the Nigerian economy, whether it is the executive or the legislature. I think they don't. You see, the issue here is that they don't even have a plan. They are saying that it is hope renewal. We should hope. We should give them time. We should give you time to do what? Run the economy aground? No, I think first thing, you should have a plan. You should have an idea. Nigerians need to see you have a plan. We need to follow you to say,
but the president has a plan. That's why they're asking you to give them more time, because they've got a plan. Don't you believe in their plan?
What is the name of the plan? If they have a plan, what's the name of the plan? The minister for what do you call it? The minister for finance and coordinating minister for economy. Wale Edun, just 3 weeks ago, came out with a document called ASAP, Accelerated something. Just 3 weeks ago, which in that particular document, he alluded to the fact that the Nigerians need, the Nigerian government will need 5.4 trillion naira for subsidy in this 2024. Then they are denying it. You see, my brother, please, look, we should stop treating Nigeria like a banana republic. The government that is serious in facing, solving or alleviating poverty in Nigeria must come with a plan. You must be ready to do things differently. It is not business as usual. And like I say, for the opt-in time, the regime or the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari ran the economy aground. He ran the economy aground. So for you to take over from Buhari, you must ensure that you do things differently. You cannot, the definition of madness is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. This is not business as usual. And like I say, this is the time for the economy handlers to come together and draw up a plan and intervene. You cannot sit in offices wearing a big agbada and cap and saying that you are trying to formulate policies to stimulate the economy. This is not the time to stimulate the Nigerian economy. This is the time to intervene directly. Government must form G2G partnerships, that is government to government partnerships, to intervene in the agri sector, intervene in the power sector, intervene in the manufacturing sector. The government must do all of this intervention by itself, because it is institutions that grow economies, that grow countries. We should run away from, we shouldn't shy away from this. People come and tell you that it is we are running a neoliberal economy, where it's a free market economy. No. This is not the time for big grammar. This is the time to look at, to domesticate our economic growth. We look at our strengths and weaknesses. You look at opportunities. And to answer your question with regards to the subversion bill that the House of Reps, I am for one. I usually don't like to bash the National Assembly, but at the rate at which they are going, this 10th Assembly is looking more like a rubber stamp National Assembly. My brother, I must say that. No matter how I want to tone it down, there's no toning it down, because it is abundantly evident. I mean, to keep the position of the IG, they passed the law in one day. To change the national anthem, they passed it in one day, without any public hearing, without any interface with the Nigerian citizens. I think it's unfortunate. I think the National Assembly needs to do more. And before I end on this, I would like to put it out there that the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, needs to apologize to Nigerians for the careless statement that he made before the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. He needs to apologize to Nigeria.
All right, let me just get your take before you leave. The fact that the Council of State held for the first time since the president assumed office, and they passed a vote of confidence on him, but Obasanjo was missing. He didn't come physically or virtually. And we also have Sowore saying the Council of State meeting was a meeting of failures. How do you see this?
Well, while I don't like dragging personal issues, whether this person attended or not, or whether they gave a vote, how will the vote of confidence, how has it materialized to the Nigerian economy? Did the stock market finally appreciate it, or the oil market, did it finally appreciate? Those are inconsequential things. They're just looking for legitimacies. The truth is, whether Obasanjo attended or not, or Buhari attended or not, I don't think those are the issues. Since that the Council of State met and they did not address the real issues, the real issue of hunger, the real issues of insecurity, the real issues of a better electoral reform, the real issues of inflation, the real issues, those are the real issues, not whether they are endorsing, giving him a clean bill of health or for vote of confidence. Those are not the real issues. I just think it's a distraction. Nigerians should discountenance them, because we don't care whether Obasanjo attends or Obasanjo doesn't attend. For us, I was hoping, in all honesty, that Council of State meeting was going to address the issues, but they didn't. Instead, the National Security Advisor is coming to make assertions that they blocked some people with $83 million, 3 million naira cryptocurrency. I said that statement is neither here nor there. What is who owns the wallet?
You had foreign financing of this protest. Is it true?
It's not true. They should stop telling Nigerians the misinformation. They should stop misinforming Nigerians. And that Dele Alake that was saying that the plan was to unseat the president. That is not the plan. They're just always looking for half-truths, propagandas, and lies. Those are not the issues. In the list of our demands, is there anything there to who must go? It wasn't there. The real protesters in the list of our demands. So they should this is not the time for propaganda. This is the time this is governance, and you have to roll up your sleeves and engage the Nigerian people. If they don't have ideas, then they should reach out. Then we give them ideas on how to run the Nigerian economy, how to govern people. Because in the philosophy of democracy, people matter more than things. It's about the people. It is about our livelihood. And my favorite statement, that it should be economic thinking that should drive political processes, and not political processes driving economic thinking. It is about our economy, it's about our livelihood. And we're saying, Mr. President, these policies that you have done thus far, you have been wrong. You have to reverse it, because it is injurious to the Nigerian economy.
All right, thank you very much. Let me get back to my guest in the studio. Arome, you've heard Ajogi make some statement as regards his take. Do you agree with him, or are there areas of conflict as the Executive Director of Center for Learning and Development?
I agree with him. I agree with him in some area. I agree with him.
What areas do you disagree?
There are a few areas that I also have dissenting voice. Yeah. Why? For example, I agree with him that we should forget about the whole conversations around the councils of elders. For me, the focus should be how do we leverage on their moral ability to influence decisions of government. That's what I want us to focus on. So I agree with him totally on that. Now, the fact that this government, now I'm going to a point, the fact that this government are doing a lot of things that are wrong doesn't mean that the government is getting everything wrong. Agree with me. Let's put that on the table. But one of the biggest problems that this government have is the fact that there are policy directions that have not been well thought out. For example, the removal of fuel subsidy, for example. I was expecting the president to, after assuming office, to come to sit down with his team to critically look at it. When we remove the fuel subsidy, what is going to be the effect on the job creation? What is going to be the effect on transport, the effect on food products in the market, the effect on different sector of the economy? How do we cushion this particular effect on this different side of the economy? Then, after coming up with a stronger direction on what needs to be done to address the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy, then you can then roll out the plan. So for me, the government have not thought out some of this plan before they roll out some of this plan. We know that subsidy is one of the biggest problems that we have in the country. So taking off fuel subsidy, it's not a bad thing at all. It's not a bad thing. But the fact that the government never sat down to look at to examine or to assess critically what the effect is going to be on the entire Nigerian society is one of the big problems that this government have. So sometimes, like my one-time vice president, Professor F.S. Idachaba of late memory, who said, he said, good intentions are not enough. So we need something that is different from this good intention. The government might have good intentions with some of these policies, but they are not enough. We need actions. And we need it to be well thought out before it's being rolled out. All right,
we hope the ruling government would hear and do the needful. Let's move on to the next talking point, talking about the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission has reviewed the monthly earnings of Nigerian senators according to the RMAFC. Each of the 109 lawmakers of the Red Chamber, talking about the Senate, earns 1,600,860 naira salary and allowances per month. Given the further breakdown, the Commission said each senator receives basic of 168,866 naira 70 kobo, then a monthly vehicle fare and maintenance allowance of 126,650 naira, while they've got the personal assistant of 42,261 42,261 naira 66 kobo. Domestic staff is 126,650 naira, and they've got entertainment. That's very interesting. 50,660 naira. Utilities 50,660 naira, and newspapers and periodicals amounting to 25,330 30 naira. Wardrobe 42,261 naira 66 kobo 66 naira, and house maintenance is we've got 8,443 naira 33 kobo, and constituency allowances, oh boy, this money is mind-boggling, 422,166 naira 66 kobo respectively, and it goes on and on. These monies seem endless. We've got furniture allowance at we've got 6,079,200 naira, severance gratuity at 6,079,200 naira, Okay, vehicle allowance 8,105,600 naira. Okay, I think my calculator is catching fire, like we say in Nigeria. Executive Director, I know you see some money this big. Is it as big as this? We've not, the list goes on.
I will agree with
you. You're feeling dizzy?
I'm feeling dizzy already.
Okay,
right. Because the average civil servant don't even take some of this.
And they're asking for 100,000. They're saying it's impossible.
It's impossible. So it's a sitting senator. I don't know why we should be employing a domestic staff for a senator. I gave you a house. I'm married for you. I should still give you a bed. Come on. I think this is something that calls for a review. This is something that calls for a reform. Number one, there are specific allowances that we need to kick out of this particular allowance. For example, domestic staff. Why should we be giving you? I employed you. We employed you as citizens. We gave you a job to do for us. And we gave you a terms of reference. Now, this is our terms of reference. You are supposed to represent us as our representative in the National Assembly. Now, having given you this particular job for you to do, you should not sit down there and kill those that have given you the job to do. The job we have given to this in our interest. So for me, I think we need to call for a review of the salaries of these sitting senators.
I guess.
The allowances, even the salary.
8 million plus.
Now, let's benchmark it with the people in the public service. How much does an average DG, a director general, or how much does somebody in level 17, level 14 in the civil service, how much do they take? Can we benchmark what they are taking as a monthly allowance, a monthly basic salary, to what a public civil servant is taking? Now, I need to also draw our attention to one of the things that I want this government to do, to see that sense of transparency that they think they want to portray is, can they give us the tax remittance of the people in government? Let's see if these people are actually paying tax on this particular money. This is taxpayers' money that is funding them. Let's also see how much they are contributing to the tax. So if they are not contributing to the tax, this also calls for a lot of questions and a lot of review of this particular policy document or act that is setting up this particular revenue for these people in government.
With the lawmaker representing Kano South in the person of Senator Somalia Kawo, who said he earns over 21 million naira monthly as total take-home package. How disturbing does that sound? 21 million naira monthly.
Very disturbing.
Take-home package.
Very disturbing. Very disturbing. Let me give you an example. If you go to Swaziland, for example, Swaziland is a very small country in the southern Africa. Now, if you check the minimum wage in Swaziland, I think it's about within 250 to 500 US dollar. That is the minimum wage in Swaziland. In Swaziland is not as wealthy as Nigeria. Now, a sitting senator taking up more than 21 million naira. Monthly. Meanwhile, our educational sector, the teachers, the lecturers, that are the foundation, the health sector, our policemen that are on the street on a daily basis trying to keep a watch over the nations, the military men, they are not being well funded. They are children. You need to go to the military barracks, or you need to go to the police barracks to see how. Come on, it's messy. Then a single senator, one person taking more than 21 million naira. Come on, that's outrageous.
All right, so let's move to the next talking point before we get more dizzy and tell you that Port Harcourt Refinery is where we're heading next, as the Port Harcourt Refinery Company, a refinery under the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited in Rivers State, has again failed to commence operations after about 6 postponements. It was observed that the promises made by to Nigerians by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the NNPC about the refinery have continued to witness multiple failures. Are you surprised?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's still the same old game: oppression, corruption, and everything. Now, I think we have come to a point now. The Nigerian oil sector to an extent is being privatized. NNPC is being privatized to an extent. So the NNPC should focus on on driving that oil sector with the private sector sense. That's one of the things that I think.
Did you notice the conflict between the Dangote refinery and the NNPCL and the NURPC having issues?
You also know that there is also, at this point, I also want to bring the international dimension to it. OPEC, apart from OPEC, the international oil companies. Now, there was also an investigative work that was done by one of the Nigerian foremost investigative journalists about the dialogue at how they were trying to bribe him to also write to a stinker on the Dangote refinery. So there is a lot of intricacies to it. Let me also draw your mind to the fact that the Dangote refinery is one of the largest, I think the largest in the world. So now, if we bring that back home, the impact on Europe is going to be huge. Number one, we are not going to be taking our crude oil to Europe to refine anymore. So it's going to create jobs for us back in Nigeria, and that is going to lead to economic independence. And these people in the other country would not want that sense of economic independence. So there is a lot of push and pull factor.
How sad is it that Nigerians themselves are sabotaging this effort?
And that is the greed system that we also need to address within our society.
They need to pull out Mele Kyari from
oh yes,
the lead of
oh yes, he's ineffective, and I think it is time for us to call for his removal. What has he done since we brought him in? What has he done? He has not delivered on any of the mandate, most of the mandate, the critical one. The Warri refinery is not working. The Port Harcourt refinery is not working. And now, a Nigerians invested his huge amount of money. Yes, in as much as I may not like the Dangote business approach, but I am also on the side of Dangote at this point because he is a Nigerian. This is a Nigerian business, and we need to support his business because he's creating job for Nigerian, he's creating market for Nigerian, and at the same time, he's putting us on the global market scale to give us that advantage to also compete at the global level. All so right. For me, I think a Dangote refinery, I'm in support of him, and I'm calling for the removal of Kyari.
All right, the latest report, one of the surveys done recently tells us that the judiciary is the most corrupt agency of government presently, so that's where we're heading to. Just to let you know that National Judicial Council is set to meet on Friday, August 16th, to decide the successor to the outgoing Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Riwola. Riwola is due to bow out August 22nd when he will attain the mandatory retirement age of 70. Has this man done enough? We know that the last time we heard him was when he swore in 12 justices that had a relationship with Nelson Wike and some other people in government. Remember, he threatened Nigerians that as long as judicial officers are not well paid, we're not going to get justices.
Judiciary, it's I agree with anyone who said that the judiciary is our biggest problem in this country because you get away with anything you do. You do the wrong thing. The judicial system is not the hope of the common man anymore. You can literally get with any vices, any sort of offense you commit in this country if you have the money to bribe your way through the judiciary. And it's something that is very glaring for every one of us to see. The subverting of the of different judgment and all of that. It's something that is very glaring. Conflicting ruling. We saw the precedent that they set in Kogi. And if care is not taken, the judiciary is also beginning to set another precedent in Kogi. We saw what happened at the tribunal. We saw what happened at the appeal court. So we are waiting for
the Supreme Court now.
The Supreme Court. So if the Supreme Court give that judgment to the current governor, then they've set another precedent, which is what we are talking about, that the judiciary is our problem. So if we can deal with the corruption in our judiciary, we can have a very sane system.
Just the judiciary, the Kogites, do you think Kogi people have also been fair?
Fair in what sense?
We saw the former governor being charged for state funds of 8 billion.
Yes.
We saw the present governor Ododo also bring in a relative of the ex-governor as chief of staff, someone who was facing the EFCC questions.
Well, you know who Ododo was, the current governor. You know who he was. He was the accountant general of the past governor Yahaya Bello. Definitely, it's somebody that is going to cover the track of his former boss, and the both of them were eating in the same plate. So what do you expect? So you will definitely bring in people around him, and we should not talk about Kogi people. We should talk about EFCC. I was expecting that the EFCC chairman by now would have convicted Governor Yahaya Bello. He should come out openly and explain to us what has happened with that case. He openly came out on the national TV to say that if he doesn't prosecute this man, he will resign his appointment. He should resign his appointment because he has not done anything so far with that case.
I want to say a big thank you to Arome again for his very amazing discourse this evening. He is the Executive Director of the Center for Learning and Development. And my name is Anthony Momodi saying thank you for joining me on the program, The Desk. Big thank you to Adakole Ijogi, one of the conveners of #EndBadGovernance, for also joining us via Zoom. That's how we call it a wrap on today's edition. Good evening.